Hello and welcome to the Graph Index. Here are wealth tips I wish I knew at 18 or sooner. The first up is the emergency fund. What I didn't realize when I first got my first job out of college is that I just thought I should put all of my money in a high yield savings account and I didn't know anything to do about it. And then when it came time to buy my first vehicle and a home, I just used all of that money and it left me with nearly no money left at the end. And I realized and know that now that is a horrible idea, and you should have an emergency fund that is not touched by anything at all, unless it's an emergency. And typically, most places you'll see like maybe like 1 to 3 months. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think in today's world, I strongly advise for at least 3 to 6 months, and I actually advise on doing at least 6 to 8 months personally myself. But that is because I am in a job market that is very competitive, and there could be times where somebody could not have a job for half a year. So, before you invest anything at all, you should try to make your very first priority investing at least 3 to 6 months of expenses inside of a high yield savings account. And this is purely for emergencies only, not for car payments or going out to eat or shopping or anything like that. It's just for purely emergencies, and that'll be your safety net in case you lose your job, you got to go to the hospital, your car catches on fire, something horrific happens. You need to have money to pay for it because life happens. Um, and this is an image from Dave Ramsey's solution. So here recently, I've also seen that if you set aside a certain amount of money for like just yourself, if you're married, you have kids, or you have somebody in your family with a disability or that are ill, you should actually double it. So if it's just you, 3 months might be okay. But if you have a wife and kids and others that rely on you, or maybe you have a highly competitive job, maybe you should try to aim for more like 6 months just to be safe. And you can see this on this graph here. And then I'll go ahead and move to the next thing, which is number two. High interest debt kills wealth. And this is something I did not realize soon enough. But with COVID happening and everything happening, with all that inflation increasing, interest rates have gone through the roof. There's people that have vehicles that are like it's like a 12% interest rate or even higher. I've heard of homes have gotten up to like 8% interest rates locally where I live. Um, and so Fidelity over here has this nice little graph, and it's pay down debt or invest for the future. Check the interest rate on your debt. So if your interest rate on your debt is less than 6%, you can think about investing that money, assuming that like the S&P 500 or the stock market has an average annual return of about like an 8%. So you would have a 2% increase on your money that way. So that's why they say that you can consider investing, is because you're going to make more money potentially investing in the S&P 500 or the stock market than you would paying that money towards debt. But if it's greater than 6%, then you should consider paying down your debt first. Let's say you have a 20% interest rate on a credit card, and the S&P 500 only gets 8% annual return that year. That is 12% that you're losing to debt if you decide to invest that into the S&P 500 instead of paying off that debt. So it's very crucial to pay off your credit card debt as soon as possible. I know a lot of people use credit cards. Something I try to do is I try to put everything on a credit card, but then I try to pay my credit cards off every single month so that there's no interest or debt rolling over each month that compounds, because interest interest debt will compound a lot quicker than investment debt will, and you can kind of see that. So that's very important. The next thing is to automate contributions. I personally did not think I had enough money to invest. I did not think I could max out a Roth IRA or anything like that. And I found out that I was severely incorrect. I maxed out my Roth IRA for 1 year, and I'm about to do it for my second year in a row. Um, and I was also able to do it my first year. I was able to put half of the contribution limits into it, and that was after finding out about Roth IRAs for the first time halfway throughout the year. So, um, and the way I was able to find out that I was able to actually invest is because I followed the 50/30/20 rule, which is 50% needs. So when you're doing your budget, you want to you want to make sure that you don't exceed 50% needs. This is a pretty common rule that everybody follows, or not everybody, but it's a pretty typical rule. So needs would be like your groceries, your housing, things like that. Your wants, that could be like shopping. If you want to buy like a new car, maybe that could fall under wants. Like transportation is also a need, obviously, but if you want to get like a luxury vehicle, that could definitely fall under the wants. And then 20% savings. So I know that like the money guy, they try to get you to at least have a minimum savings slash investment rate of 15%, and I think that's a super nice place to start. Um, the more you can invest and save, the better, and the quicker it'll compound. So by following this budgeting rule, I was able to figure out, and after following this budgeting rule and tracking my um, spending for a few months, I was able to decide that I was spending way too much money on going out to eat, and that if I saved the money I was spending out to eat and buy groceries instead, that I could actually invest that money. And so I've been doing that. But after you decide your budget, you can just set it and forget it. You can set up automatic Roth IRA contributions, or you can add additional percentage to your 401k contributions. What I personally did is I set up um, automatic contributions to my high yield savings account, which is my emergency fund, because I'm trying to build it up a little bit higher than what it's at currently. I have 6 months of expenses, but I'm trying to get to at least 8 months of expenses. And then the rest are just going to my Roth IRA to max out. And then after I max out my Roth IRA, I think um, I'll have to decide what to do there, because I have a few big life goals I want to work on. So mine is a little skewed right now, but that is what I'm currently doing. Um, but the sooner you can just automate your contributions, the less you have to worry about it. You know that that money's going to be there. You don't need the money. It's better off being invested. So that's a very important thing to do. Um, and then that takes us to start with tax advantage accounts. So when you decide you're ready to invest, you should really start with your Roth IRA, your 401k, and your HSA, which is a health savings account. And these are accounts that are like cheat codes for long-term growth and generating easy wealth. It's actually insane. When I found out about these, I was so mind blown that these existed. The 401k plan, if you look up here, by Investopedia, they say it's a defined contribution tax advantaged retirement savings plan that is sponsored by one's employer. And then down here they say a Roth IRA is a tax advantaged individual retirement account to which you can contribute after tax dollars. So if you don't know what a Roth IRA is, it's basically money that you make that you had already paid taxes on. You can contribute it to this account. This account you cannot withdraw from. You cannot withdraw your gains from. You can withdraw your investments, but you cannot withdraw the profits that you make from it. But you cannot withdraw those until you're 59 and a half years old. And right now the limit is $7,000 a year, and then at age 50 and up, you get an additional $1,000 a year contribution limit added as a catch-up tactic. But basically, when you go to cash out everything in your Roth IRA when you're 59 and a half or older, you don't have to pay a single penny on taxes. So it's a very, nice. And then the 401k, it's something that it's a tax advantaged account. So basically, you're taking money that you have not paid taxes on, and you're contributing it to this retirement plan. And then when you retire, you'll pay taxes on it. And that you may think like, oh well, I'm not sure about that because I think I'd rather just pay taxes on it now and not later. You can look at different accounts, but this is nice because the money you put towards your 401k plan, not only is it like a tax deferent currently because you don't pay taxes on it, which means that your taxable income is actually lower, which could save you money on taxes potentially. But your 401k plan, most companies typically offer an employee match or an employer match. So let's say um, you're contributing 5% and you're working for an employer that also matches your 5%, then you're contributing a total of 10% towards your 401k instead of 5%. So a very, very, very crucial rule is to always try to match what your employer will match you to. So like if your employer will match up to 5%, but you only are contributing 3%, you're missing out on an additional 2% because your employer will only match your 3%. So instead of having a total of 10%, you're only contributing 6%. So you really want to make sure you contribute as much as your employer will contribute to match you, because that's literally free money. Like it's basically adding it onto your paycheck essentially, but better because it's tax advantage, and in the long run, it will be worth a lot more than if they just gave you that money now. And then don't time the market. I see everybody like saying like, "Oh, time the market." Like the market's too high right now. The market's too volatile right now. I've seen it a lot here recently on YouTube and people I know talking about how they refuse to get into the market right now with all the tariff talks, the war, the potential of war starting, everything like that. And I think they've truly missed out on a lot of potential gains this by saying those things and not investing in the market. I think the market has hit all-time highs multiple times now here recently. So here is a graph from Investopedia that I really liked, and if you start out have never invested a penny in your life, and you invest $10,000 when you start. After 30 years, if you had not invested, then it would still be $10,000, but actually it would be less because if inflation's at 3%, then your money loses half its value in 24 years by the rule of 72. And the rule of 72 is you take 72 and divide it by the return of the market or inflation, and that's how long it takes to double your money or to cut the value of your money in half. So if you invested, or if you did not invest $10,000, you just held $10,000 in a regular account that wasn't like a high yield savings account or anything like that, and inflation was 3%. After 30 years, your $10,000 would only be worth somewhere below $5,000 most likely. So you actually lose money. Where if you take the $10,000 and let's say for Investopedia's graph's sake, it compounded annually at 5%, you could see here that you invest $10,000 at year 30 down here, it's worth over $40,000. And that includes your first $10,000 you spent. And this is with never investing another penny. This is just letting your $10,000 compound over 30 years. But you can see here is where 10,000 starts, and then up here's 40,000. So you made over $30,000 from just investing $10,000 and letting it sit in the market. That is incredible. It's very important. And then that's the end for now. I will try to make another video for you guys soon, and I'll try to make sure it's better every time. Thank you.